Today we're going to be showing you guys
how to wallpaper a wall like this.
Let's go! So Phil, what are we actually going to need?
So, get yourself a little wallpaper hanging kit. This one's from Wix, it's very good. It's got scissors, a roller, a brush, another brush, a creasing tool, some fishing line. We're also going to need a bucket, some adhesive for your wallpaper, a sponge to clean up after yourself, and a tape measure, and last but not least, a spirit level.
So what's our first job?
First job, we're going to measure our wall and find the centre. So take your tape measure, pull it across.
Measure the full length of the room.
326. Here's the centre of our wall. You mark the centre of your wall.
So now that you've found your centre mark, you're going to need to put a level line. But before we do that, we're actually going to need to check and make sure that we got good cuts either end. And how we do that? We literally sit our wallpaper on the centre mark, and you can just use a pencil if it helps and just mark it, and this really helps get an idea of how your cut's going to end on the end. And this is a great example because look, we've started on this centre line here and it's actually ended up a really poor sliver, so we're actually going to adjust that just for you guys.
So if you do end up with a little sliver like that, all we have to do is measure the width of our wallpaper. Ours is 520, you check yours. And then we're going to come to our centre line and we're going to measure across half of the width of our wallpaper. So we're just going to take our measurement of 260 and put ourselves a new mark on the wall. So that is our new mark for the side of our wallpaper. So now you can check again to see how that falls on the ends of your wall. Doing the same method, like so, and as you can see, we've got a nice big cut now on the new lines that we've just put in. So this is the one we're going to use on our wall for our vertical level line. If it works out better there, use that one. If this one works out better, use this one. Let's put our line in. So now that we've got our mark that we're going to work from, we're going to want to use a level or a laser level if you're lucky enough to have one. And we're going to mark a level line, which for us is there. So let's mark our level line. And you should end up with something like this. And that is what we're going to work off with our wallpaper.
Right, now it's time to work out how many drops you guys need at home. And how you guys can work it out is if you hold it up to your level line and you hold your wallpaper and you've got your marks on the wall, and you number them. So we need 1, 2, 3 that side, and then we need 4, 5, 6, 7 that side. So we need 7 total. So you work out what you need at home and we'll get to the next step.
So now that Brad's told you how many drops you need, we're going to measure how long they need to be. Simple as taking your tape measure, measuring top to bottom. But what we're going to do, we're going to add 6 inches, 100 mil extra so that it's not super tight. We cut it in at the end. So let's cut some paper. Right, so we're going to grab our scissors out of our kit, and what you may know is that we haven't got a table for pasting the wallpaper. That is because this is paste on wall. So much easier, don't have to have all messy sticky wallpaper everywhere. We're going to just paste the wall in a minute and we'll show you that. So let's unroll these and get them cut to size.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to pre-cut all of them at once, so when we actually come to putting the wallpaper on the wall, we're actually going to be ready.
Yeah, ready. So we've measured out our length and we're just going to take our scissors and cut it off. One thing to note here, if you've got a patterned wallpaper, on the packet it will say the pattern repeat, so you need to match it up. So cut your first one, turn it over and match each one pattern and then cut the same length, but obviously you'll have a pattern match. Ours isn't, so let's get on with it. We're going to do that 7 times and then we'll show you the next step.
So now that we've cut all our lengths to size, we're going to put these in half and we're going to put them in a safe place so they don't get damaged. You should do the same and we'll start mixing up. Right, now it's time to mix your adhesive up, and there's actually 2 types. There's a ready mix and there's one that you actually have to mix up yourself. And we're going to be using this one because it's a lot cheaper.
And another thing you need to know, is this is designed to be put straight on the wall. If you're pasting the paper, you need to get one designed to go on the paper. They are different. So all we're going to do is we're going to follow the instructions on the back of the packet. You do the same with your paste, and we're going to mix that up and move on.
So a little top tip is buckets usually have little indicators of how much water can be held. So I'll put a little marker on how much water I need, and I'm just going to fill it up. And it's nice and easy to see if you can see the marker, so I know how much water I need in my bucket.
Right, so you've got your little bit of cold water to the measurements that you need on your packet. We're now going to start adding our adhesive, and we're going to mix it with this perfectly fine piece of stick.
Now this is actually oak from a door we actually fitted. We made a YouTube video for that, and you can check that out.
Brad's not doing his job though.
Oh crap. You can't do this with one person, we're just being silly billies. How's that feeling, Phil?
Oh, delicious. That is exactly 1/2.
We've mixed the water and the powder up, and now it's starting to thicken, and we'll have to check the packet out to see how long before we can actually start applying it to the wall. Right, now it's time for the exciting part. We're about to start hanging the wallpaper.
And the first job is going to be putting our adhesive on our wall. We're not going to do the whole wall in one go. What we're going to do is those marks you made to show where your drops are going, we're going to paste just past each side, top to bottom, and we're going to put one up at a time. Right, before we glue it, one thing to note, use the correct brush. This is out of our kit. It looks like this. They all look like that. This is not for the adhesive. This is to flatten off the paper after, so we'll show you that. So just use the correct brush and give it some of this. It's a bit of a messy process, and we're going to try and do it in an order that we know where we've been, because it's easy to forget. And don't worry if you get it on your skirtings a little bit, we can clean that off after. And make sure you're generous.
So for people that are applying it, Phil, what sort of like consistency? Just like a nice little brush over, would you say?
Yeah, like a nice little brush over.
If you put too much,
you'll have a lot of bubbles.
if you put too little,
you'll have no wallpaper.
Just remember, when you're applying glue, make sure you go all the way to the top, because when you come to cut it, it might fall forward. So just keep that in mind.
Right, so now that you've got your glue on your strip that you're doing, make sure it's completely covered every single inch. We're just going to touch it onto the top there, and then we're going to start manoeuvring it so that it's on our line all the way down, like so, up to our socket. So now that we're on our line, now we're going to use our other brush. So this is the other brush we was talking about, and what we're going to do, we're just going to start flattening off, push it up, crease it into that corner. You may be all the way up to your ceiling, and we're just going to come down like so, taking all the air bubbles out. Once we get to this stage, we're going to want to make any relief cuts. So if you've got a socket like this, we're going to have to cut it so it can flap round. So you can either use some scissors or your knife that we're going to be using after, but we'll just use the scissors for now. I'm going to cut up to the corner, and we're going to cut to the corner just to give it a little bit of space to breathe. So you're happy with the position, you're on your level line, you're going to take the scraper that's provided in one of the kits, or get one, and we're just going to push down into the corner. We're going to bring a very, very sharp knife and slide it along, and we're not going to come right to the end. We're going to move the scraper before we get to the end and cut more, and then stop, move, all the way through. And what this does is it prevents you having any steps in your cuts. Like that. And it's the same process around the socket, if you've got one, or a light switch. So we're just going to tuck it down the back, cut it, pull it off, keeping this in place at all times. It stops it from ripping. And we'll come to the bottom and come up. And we'll hold it on the corner if we're going to pull it off. And then the same on the bottom.
Right, you just got to clean the excess glue off using a damp sponge.
That's it.
And repeat the process at the top and bottom. Just using warm water. Right, now that we've got the first drop in, we're going to start pasting up the second section, remembering to go just past the mark, and also we won't need to go too close to this first drop that Phil's put in because he's over glued the first bit, and that's why we're going to repeat the process on this side. So we're going to get this all glued up and we're going to get the second drop in. Just be careful around sockets, don't get too much glue here because you can get electrocuted.
Right, so now that he's pasted this next section, all we're going to do is we're going to be buttoning it up right up into our previous drop. The only difference being now, if you've got a patterned wallpaper, you need to adjust to get the pattern to run through and match, obviously. And then it's just a case of working your way down, making sure that that seam is invisible, like so. As you can see, I'm not really sticking this side because I want to be able to shuffle it backwards and forwards. And once I'm happy with that seam, that's when we'll brush it out. And if anything like that happens where it creases, pull it back off. Don't try and keep brushing it, because you'll just make it worse, and we'll just rework the paper back in. And as you can see, it will come straight out. So again, we're going back round the socket again, so we're just going to make some reliefs, like so. I'm going to cut to the edge, and if you just fold it back like so, you can see where you're cutting to if you need to. Down to the corner, and you can roll that down, push that in. And if it's a bit long on the bottom, especially if you're doing a pattern repeat, just lob that off. We don't want that dangling around. Get it out of our way. And then we make our second one. Come from the top down to the corner, like so, and just push that round and around the socket like that. So now that we've got two pieces joining together, we're going to start using this nylon roller. So on that seam, which is here, if I pull it apart, we're going to put some pressure on and roll that seam flat. Feel for it instead. And it's just going to help us give that invisible seam that we want. So once you've rolled your join, your seam, if any excess glues come out, you want to get your damp cloth and just wipe that over, because when it dries it will show through and you don't want that.
Right, we're going to get the next drop in, guys, and then we'll show you what to do in the corner.
So now we're on to our corner. So all we're going to do is we're going to work it in, not worrying too much about the corner yet, just trying to get it lined up, just sticking it on this left edge or right edge depending on the side you're doing, and getting that into position. If it's a smallish cut and it's quite a bit bigger, you can quickly trim this down a little bit so you ain't got so much to battle when you're up here. And then we're going to come down like we have with the rest, just lining up this edge. Right, so now that we've got it lined up here, we're going to work our way into that edge. So let's just take some of this extra paper off, makes it easier for you to see. So we're folding it into the corner like so. And then we'll take our scissors and we'll just cut up into that point. So now we've cut into that corner there. And then we'll cut away from this side back to that corner. And that should allow it to tuck in like so. So we're going to take a little bit of excess near the corner we're cutting. So you can see nice and clearly what's happening. So we've folded it down, we're up to our join, we're happy with that. And then we're just going to fold it back, roll it into that corner there. And then we're going to cut from one side to the corner. And then from the other side to the corner. Move that bit of paper, and what that allows is everything to fold into place so we can final trim with our scraper and our knife. When you come to the corner and you cut, when you go to rip it off, if you just hold this in the corner when you're pulling it, just gives you less chance of ripping the paper. If we've missed anything, hit the comments, like and subscribe. Peace!